Adam Eve has always been one of the strongest superheroes in the Invincible universe, but a big moment in the Season 3 finale has revealed that she might actually be even stronger than what we knew. Over the course of time, we've seen her grow from a powerful young hero to Mark Grayson's love interest, and her incredible superpowers have always amazed the fans. In this video, we will explore some of the more underrated sides of her long line of abilities that basically stem from her primary power of manipulating matter at a subatomic level. Also, don't miss out on all the new developments featuring Adam Eve's powers that have been recently revealed in the Season 3 finale. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin.
Mr. and Mrs. Wilkins? Your daughter's a freaking genius!
Adam Eve has an extensive knowledge of science and physics. Does her hidden power stem from her origin story? Knowledge may not be a superpower per se, but for Adam Eve, her gift of limitless knowledge started showing from a very young age. This is actually tied to her tragic origin story, where all her superpowers came from a government experiment conducted by the assistant director of the Pentagon's Superhuman Research and Development Branch, Dr. Brandyworth. She was one of the test subjects that made it, but her mother died during the labor process. When Agent Erickson came to collect her, Brandyworth switched Eve with a stillborn baby and saved her life from further experiments. She grew up without any awareness of her actual birth mother, and she showed signs of her heightened knowledge and intellect from a very young age. Her first words were the chemical composition of an apple, and soon she discovered her ability to manipulate matter when she turned a bland chicken dinner into a cheeseburger. Basically, Brandyworth managed to turn Eve into a living science machine with limitless superpowers. It's also revealed later that Brandyworth had put certain mental blocks in her brain to prevent her from becoming near omnipotent and a potential threat. We'll explore more about this in the next segment of the video. Can Adam Eve override her mental blocks? And does it make her nearly immortal? The details of the effects of her mental block are revealed after the events of the Invincible War, when the Viltrumite Conquest comes to Earth to find out about Mark's progress on the mission of taking over the planet. They engage in a violent battle, and after witnessing the same on TV, Eve steps in to help the love of her life even though she's injured. It turns out that she's no match for Conquest, and his overwhelming powers put her down in no time. He proceeds to crush her face and then impales her through the gut, which is quite a gory situation, and leaves her nearly dead. However, this is when we also get to know how impactful her powers truly are. She not only manages to burn down Conquest's skin to the muscle, but also reforms her body. It's then revealed that she can override the mental blocks that were put on her by Brandyworth under certain emergency situations. While under normal circumstances, the mental blocks prevent her from affecting organic matter, she can override the same when she experiences intense trauma, which is inevitable in a life-and-death crisis. When Conquest literally destroyed her and caused some severe injuries, it triggered the true powers of Adam Eve, and she was able to recreate her body from subatomic levels. That being said, it should also be considered that Adam Eve can never truly break the mental blocks voluntarily, and her true powers can only be accessed by her up to a degree of conditionality. Basically, the true extent of her powers manifest by themselves, and she doesn't really need to control them. This also ensures that she never really risks herself from being consumed by the vastness of her powers, and she doesn't lose her true self. Also, this discovery about the powers of Adam Eve makes it more convincing than ever that she's more invincible than Mark. Once she's able to bypass her mental blocks, she can effectively restructure herself and all kinds of organic matter, including other people and animals. It also makes her nearly immortal. She could resurrect herself from nearly dead situations, and there have actually been instances where she even comes back from the dead because of her ability to manipulate organic matter as well. Adam Eve can resurrect the dead and grant superpowers to ordinary people. The godlike abilities of Adam Eve are not just restricted to herself, and she can also impact others with such abilities. In the comic books, Eve is able to resurrect herself and Mark after they're killed by Thrag and his daughter Ursal. She's also able to give both herself and Mark a power boost as well, and this further enhances her nearly invincible line of superpowers. Also, it's worth noting here that since Adam Eve can increase the abilities of Mark, she can also do the same with ordinary people if she wants. Thus, technically, she could give a particular superpower to a random individual, or also take away someone's abilities. That makes her one of the undisputed strongest superheroes in the Invincible universe. Besides, her power to resurrect someone is not just restricted to a sudden or unnatural death. There's been an instance in the comic books where Adam Eve dies of old age, but she's quickly able to reform her body all over again, and the new appearance is back to her prime age. So not only is Adam Eve immortal herself, her condition ensures that Mark is also essentially immortal, because she can resurrect him just like she can do to herself. Adam Eve's pregnancy can affect her powers. There's a rather shocking event that takes place after the battle against the oldest Viltrumite in the Empire, Conquest. Adam Eve recreated her body completely using her powers. However, there were some noticeable changes that started to come to light following this battle. The first instance is observed during an intimate moment with Mark, and he sees some unusual things in her room, like rainbow grass and rocks and cheese. This makes him realize that Adam Eve doesn't have complete control over her powers at the moment. A worried Mark takes Eve to the hospital, but nobody's able to figure things out regarding her sudden change in controlling her powers. However, it's finally revealed that her system is acting up only because she's pregnant. During her pregnancy, Adam Eve created a ring by using her powers, and she accelerated her digestion. This was quite risky because using it too much could have harmed or even killed her child, Terra. It's also been mentioned in the comic books that Eve has to avoid the use of her powers and be extremely careful about this because using them might be fatal to the child. The Season 3 finale shows Mark and Eve about to have sex, and Eve uses her powers to remove Mark's suit. However, the suit melts on the floor, and this is a clear hint that something is wrong with Eve's control over her powers. Going by the comic book story arc that we've discussed above, there's a chance that the pregnancy narrative will be explored further in Season 4. Adam Eve has reality warping powers. This is not talked about enough in the Invincible universe, but Adam Eve has the ability to exercise a certain level of control over reality. This only happens when she can access her full powers, and she uses her control over energy or matter to warp reality. One of the reasons that this remains a relatively underrated superpower of Adam Eve is probably because she hasn't really used it enough in the various storylines.
And I defy you to even remember who I am!
Eve can wipe memories from someone's mind. Her reality warping powers are not the only means for Adam Eve to affect the psychology of an individual. Her origin story reveals something interesting in this regard. When we see her reaction to watching the death of Brandyworth in front of her eyes, she's able to bypass the mental blocks put in her brain, and she suddenly ends up altering the minds of Agent Erickson and his doctor. They both forget about her completely and have no memory of all that happened with Eve. Thus, Eve can successfully wipe out the memories of one or more individuals at once, and this is another example of her amplified powers when the mental block is removed. The only downside to this ability is that Eve has to face certain extreme circumstances for these powers to be unveiled.
Increase the density of the air. I've got all kinds of tricks.
Adam Eve's flight abilities are criminally underrated. Can she control the weather too? Adam Eve has the ability to fly around, but it's actually an extension of her primary superpower of manipulating matter. She lowers the density of the surrounding air which she intends to fly, and she can also create powerful force fields that allow her to levitate under her feet, and this propels her through the air at great speeds. She's also capable of controlling the elemental forces by simply transmuting the atoms of the atmosphere around her. This is almost a kind of weather control, and it isn't just limited to the Earth, as it extends elsewhere as well. Since she can manipulate the atoms and molecules in the atmosphere, she's able to control the temperature and various other weather conditions. All of these put together power her flight abilities, and she can also transport others by projecting solid-like constructs that also levitate and propel them ahead at very high speeds.
You were murdered by...
Adam Eve has a crazy regenerative ability. She has the biokinesis powers that allow her to become nearly immortal and invincible, as we've already discussed in the video. However, even though she can affect living creatures and tissues, the powers are restricted by the pre-installed mental block put forth by Brandyworth. Once she's able to bypass the blocks under extreme circumstances that trigger trauma and stress, she can do just about anything with biological matter. It allows her to fix and mend all kinds of wounds in her own body and also in others. Her regenerative powers are truly next level in this regard, because she's recovered from everything from broken bones to stab injuries. She can do the same for her allies as well, and Mark has been the beneficiary of this ability on a few occasions.
You're gonna regret.
Her insane durability often goes unnoticed. When we think of the durability in a superhero, it's such a generic superpower that almost every major superhero possesses a certain degree of durability. That being said, for someone like Adam Eve, the durability is almost fascinating, and it remains one of her more underrated traits, clubbed under her more important powers, like matter manipulation. The Invincible universe has plenty of instances where Eve proves her insane durability. She's withstood blows and attacks that would have decimated prominent superpowers. One will probably remember the time when Omni-Man threw her to the ground with so much force that it created a crater, but Adam Eve remained in one piece. Adam Eve's energy constructs are not spoken about enough. By now, you've probably realized the defensive powers of Adam Eve are so very extreme that one cannot bypass them and cause any permanent damage to her. However, what many fail to realize is that she can be an equally dangerous attacker with her energy projection and manipulation abilities. She can project an energy field that appears pink in color, and her energy constructs are only limited by her imagination. She can use them as a form of offense, and even though these constructs can be broken by brute force, they're still powerful enough to be reckoned with. Even her flight abilities that we've already discussed in the video are a result of these energy constructs that she's capable of creating.
Oh shit.
Marvelous verdict! The true powers of Adam Eve are finally showing in the animated series. For quite some time, the comic book version of Adam Eve and the animated series portrayal of Adam Eve had some differences. Those familiar with the comics always knew about just how powerful Adam Eve really is, but the animated series had kept things somewhat reserved in this regard. However, after the events of the Season 3 finale, it's clear that the show is finally on par with the comic book narrative. The next season will, in all likelihood, explore the incredible powers and invulnerable nature of Adam Eve, and we expect to see a lot more of her character in the upcoming events. We also believe that her pregnancy will be a major part of the story going ahead, and it's all very exciting for the fans of the show. We hope you enjoyed the details of her hidden and underrated powers, and the anatomical details of her that make it possible. Don't forget to tell us in the comments about your favorite superpower of Adam Eve, and also tell us which part of the show appealed to you most. And if you like our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone!